Welcome. I am joined here today by Fogheart. Fogheart, who's done all the music, all the composing for the Doors of Trithias. Um, it's been almost a year Fogheart and I started working together. It's been a lot of music since then, and really positive feedback too. It's just been great, enhancing the Doors of Trithias experience. And I wanted to take this time to talk to Fogheart, and he's going to show us some of the behind the scenes. What are we looking at here right now, Fogheart?
So this is actually a work in progress of a track that is going to be in a future update. This is the so there's an area in the game where you're fighting gremlins, and the first track is like a kind of a playful track, and then you go downstairs basically where the big guns are, and this plays, and it's just a little bit more serious, like there's a little bit more danger. And that's what this is. I can give you I can press play if you want.
Yeah, I will say this area is not in game yet, so I guess this is music for an upcoming Gremlin dungeon.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. So yeah, that's
Nice.
just a nice preview of what's coming up.
I should say, by the way, I think
having fun with this.
the bar wasn't moving on the screen, just so the viewers know. I guess on your end, we were tracking that live. I think just with the recording software.
Yeah. Cubase is quite a hungry beast, so running this and Cubase at the same time. Yeah.
All right, so did you want to maybe use this song as kind of like a lens into your process, showing people how you create the music for the game, or to talk about some of these layers? I'm seeing a lot of layers in this track.
Yeah, sure. So the way I approach writing for Doors of Trithias, it varies depending on the type of track. But like for this particular kind of track, so like dungeon sort of stuff, I tend to start with the melody. So obviously I wanted to go link it to the previous Gremlin track. So we've got the leitmotif right here. Where are you? This one. So we've got that right there, and so I started with that in my head, and then kind of built around it, and laid it up, and so I've got the feeling that I wanted, with the pizzicato strings and stuff, just that bom bom bom, just kind of like creeping around sort of thing going on.
Yeah, that's it's a fun little riff. It has like a bit of whimsy.
Absolutely.
Almost like that's kind of a John Williams sort of feeling, we're going on an adventure, something's happening, something's moving.
Yeah. And these guys, the gremlins, in numbers, they're really dangerous, but ultimately they're kind of, they're almost the comedic value of the Doors of Trithias. They're just these little, weird-looking guys with the slingshots, and they'll stand and throw stones at you, And I wanted to get that across a little bit in the music. Literally throwing rocks, man. So, that's kind of what I wanted to do. So yeah, and then I'll use different kinds of things in the layers. So in this I've got the different areas of the orchestra going on. We've got some woodwind as well, which woodwind I kind of feel is a bit of a key part of the Daughters of Trithys sound, if you like. You hear it like in the main theme. It's like the main melody, the main instrument, and it comes throughout the entire soundtrack. So yeah, I felt it was really good to have it in this track as well. Just to it's kind of like the glue that brings all the tracks together.
Yeah, I remember telling you like
Excuse me.
some of the new stuff. It had a similar sound. I wasn't even sure what was doing it. It's just there was a Doors of Trithia sound developing over time, and I guess you're saying, yeah, the woodwinds was a part of that. Can we hear like a
Yeah,
clip of the
yeah, very
woodwinds
much. The
here?
woodwinds. Yeah, go. So in particular, I've been using the English horn quite a lot in various tracks. Again, in the main Doors of Trithys main menu theme, is the English horn and a clarinet. But this bit here is what the sound is kind of encapsulates a little bit. Yeah, so that that the English horn kind of tends to carry the melody really nicely, and it's got this sort of melancholic sort of sound to it that I feel carries nicely with the how the world feels, in Dolph Truthius.
Oh, so true. Kind of like a fallen world. Things are a little darker, a little sadder. The horns too. They fit with the
Yeah,
gremlins. The gremlins are like more crude. So the idea is like you almost imagine them playing their little horns. We might have a character in the future, like
absolutely,
an actual gremlin trumpeter. So you could imagine him playing his
dude,
sad little
that'd be
song.
so cool. Yeah, that'd be so funny. You just got chasing through and like he sort of stops every now and again to throw a stone at you.
He plays the horn and then it calls in reinforcements. It's like a there's an enemy in the
Yeah,
base.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Nice, nice. Hmm.
Um,
So, yeah, yeah. That's
one thing I could bring up. So when we started, you and I working together, I was originally pointing to a very different sound. It was I was sending you old school RuneScape um, soundtrack, saying that I wanted something like fantasy medieval, and we've come so far since then. Like I know there's a lot of back and forth in the early days, us trying to find a sound and like what instruments, and it's very different now. I think we're both quite happy with the sound, and we're sort of seeing here now like you're building on this is going to be the second album, the second set of songs. You're building on that sound we've developed. Um,
Yeah,
so what would you even call
yeah,
it?
absolutely.
What would you call the genre? Or like I hear synth elements. There's some medieval instruments. There's a lot going into these, but yet they kind of have a cohesive element to it.
Um, the only word, it's like a mishmash of like all those different things that you said, and the only word like this word's used a lot, for genres is hybrid. That's
Hmm.
like it's a hybrid of that orchestral meets synth. If you look at the Zenith soundtrack, which is the main battle track for when you're fighting like one of the main bosses. That is like a culmination of that sound. If like, it's got the big blaring sort of synth sound. It's got the arpeggio. It's got brass in there. It's just this big, massive combination of all those things, and I feel like you can paint some really desperate scenes with that, and you can paint some really epic scenes with that as well. But that for me just is the
Appropriately named
that's the
then
sound.
Zenith. For me, when I really knew it was
Yeah,
working
yeah.
was the one you did for fight scenes, and we originally used it for the Bandit Elites, where you go into the room and the Bandit Elite's been hiding there. When I heard that, I just
Yeah,
knew,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
that's it. Like that's perfect. And I'll tell you, originally um, I was very afraid if the sound was too realistic because I didn't want it to
Hmm,
be like some grand epic, like a movie. Because the game
absolutely.
is a symbolic representation, it's pixel art. So if the music is too perfect, it's like there's this clash, there's this dissonance. So I was really wanting
Yeah.
something like almost chiptune, but I think you argued to push it up a little, and it really worked. Where again, like in that Zenith sound and the fight scene and pretty much all the tracks, to be honest. It's like it's good music, it's realistic, you've got good instruments, but it's not so realistic you like get confused. It's like it's hyper
Yeah,
realistic, you know.
absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting you talk about that because there's in film and in video games there's this very distinct thing where in a realistic game everything is just totally organic instruments and it's almost John Williams to bring him back into this um, in a way that listeners and consumers they associate those sounds with a real view. So the way that Dolls of Trithia kind of breaks that is again through the sound of with those synths and stuff. I feel like that really breaks that. Oh, we know this isn't supposed to be realistic, but at the same time, it's still if you listen to it by itself, it still sounds like it belongs. The visuals and the music, like you said, we've experimented a bit and we've got to a place where the visuals and the music they just marry up so well.
Totally agree. And again, I'll reiterate, like feedback's been really good. So even like reviews specifically mentioning how good the music is, I think it's really helped bring the game to life. I'm so happy we've met, honestly, because it just seems like it fits so well. Yeah. Did you want to show us some more tracks, or maybe we could consider discussing some of the first album we worked on together? I don't know if you have your Bandcamp page available.
Yeah, give me a moment to bring that up.
Will that audio come through?
I have a link for that. So here we go. Yeah, I can probably reshare the screen actually.
Okay.
If not, I mean,
cool.
Can you see this?
We'll see.
Cool.
No. If this takes too long, I'll just edit. I'll just edit this out.
Sure. Right, so...
Oh, perfect. Nice.
Okay. Great. So, yeah, pick a track where to start.
Well, I think one of the first things we did was Evergreen, and that was the one in that video I was talking about, don't do everything yourself, or I was trying to do it myself, and it would have been way too much.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because you've got a musical background, man. That pull is going to be strong. You're going to you feel like I want to do this all because I've got the ability. Why not?
Yeah,
but
it's a lot
part of being a dev.
Yeah. But maybe maybe you could play a little bit of Fight, or that's the one where I think that was like first before Zenith. I felt like the sound we'd really arrived somewhere.
Yeah, this is we were going to use this originally for the it was just for when you went down the stairs and there was a bandit, like hidden bandit cave type thing, and there was usually a dog and stuff there. This is I'll play a couple of seconds of this.
Yeah.
So actually, I just realised that one is actually that came in later. That's the new events track.
Yeah, I realized that too. That was actually
a random encounter in the wild.
That's what I realized. We named them at the end.
Has the same sort of sounds. Yeah, we did. We went through the whole thing sort of afterwards and named them. The one that we were talking about was Risky.
Okay.
I'll play a couple of seconds of this if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I think the reason why that worked so well was because it has so much space in it. It just because let's be honest, this isn't an action RPG. Jumping around all over the place. This is a tactical roguelike,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of time, because it's turn based. There's time to think, and the music, despite it being urgent, it doesn't fill your head. It doesn't flood you with all this sound, and I think that helps loads with this kind of game.
Oh, absolutely. It's almost like it I like too that it's not it doesn't draw so much attention to itself, that it's more like it creates a soundscape. Like it feels like you're in a space. And like I get synthwave vibes in that one and I love it. And then it pulls back to like also this medieval fantasy sound. It's like happening at the same time. Uh so like really stood out to me is like, okay,
Uh,
here's where like the synth sound and all of it is all coming together in like this tense moment in a big fight.
hmm. And going back to the Dollar Trifty sound, this was kind of the first track really that everything sort of came together, because I used the template from that track for like the rest of the tracks, particularly the battle tracks, but like for some of the other tracks as well, just for in terms of the instruments that we were using, just to keep that sound and build on it as well.
Uh, I guess yeah, it totally makes sense because we both agreed that one was just fantastic. Um, to just to like expand again on this process and like coming up with this whole album, maybe you could talk. What were some of the difficulties for you? Is it finding that those instruments, or like where was the or was it largely smooth going developing this album?
Um, it had its moments. I'm not gonna lie. When you're building something new and you've got two different minds, and it really helps again that you have a musical mind, because the feedback you give me is really precise and I can work with that.
Well,
But
thank
there's
you.
always going to be, two creative minds. There's always going to be a slight sort of, well, there's this way, and then the other one's thinking, well, there's also this way, you know. And we've had some really great breakthrough moments, and we've had moments where we've had to really hammer it out, almost bar for bar until we were both happy. Um, and those have been really fantastic times. Um, the thing I found the hardest about this track, though, is landing on the sound and working out what the sound is. And we've been talking about the sound for like this entire interview, but it really is like the pinnacle of this whole thing. Um, Finding that sound. So the first track I ever wrote for this was it was the village track, which was I can't remember the names myself. Once Thriving, and that was like one of the first tracks that I sort of put together. And in my mind, I was like, I was still like, where's this going? I like this sound, but where is it gonna go? And for a couple of tracks, I was like, oh, which direction do I take this in? Because I don't want to get too far away from the first sound. How do we bring that together? And so
Yeah.
finding that
And I
was
remember at the
difficult at
same time, it
first.
was like
But
I wanted to be heavily involved, but then I'm like, oh wait, you have to let him do his thing, which has been again like the other video I made talking about the music, which has been the thing I've been learning. It's like
yeah,
that balance of giving space to all the artistic minds involved in this, but also it all has to fit. And it was I do remember that. I was like, well, is this the sound? I guess it could be. It's a good track, and then in the end, I think it fits in great. And you've done now. We just added the second city, the larger city soundtracks. I think it's a great balance. The big bustling city versus the small hamlets have that once thriving sound, which is kind of sadder, and they feel like they were made at a similar
yeah.
time. To be honest, you can't even tell.
Yeah, and that's sort of like that's now I'm happy with that. Back then I was worried that people were gonna play this game and be like, how many composers were on this? Because all the tracks were gonna sound different or something. But going back to what you were saying about just like letting go and letting me do the music sort of thing. I feel like the way that we've worked together has worked really well. I've heard horror stories about people working with musician composers, musician game devs. That's they've
Mm.
it's ended up being the game dev that's like done all the music because the composer they've worked with has suggested things, and the game dev has been like, well, no, it don't work like that, and they find it very hard to work together. I think how me and you have kind of come together. You've given me so much space, and I respect how hard that has probably been from from a creative standpoint for you, and the feedback you give me as a musician has really helped to shape a lot of this, the music that's
Thank
been
you.
coming out.
Well, I'll say it was absolutely worth it because you've done. It's like you far surpassed expectations. Like I'm so happy with the soundtrack. I mean, it's great. Another thing I wanted to ask you too was there other soundtracks that inspire you, maybe in general, or when you were thinking about the Doors of Trithia's sound? Is there other games you were looking at or considering? Anything jump out?
For I remember specifically for each of the battle themes. I've been very influenced by the Final Fantasy franchise, and like some of the older battle tracks from them. There's a very famous track called Battle One, that runs throughout the Final Fantasy history. And if you listen to this album, I'm not going to tell you where, you will hear, you'll hear little references here and there to that. There's another one for Chrono Trigger as well, because that's just such a good game. Yeah, I pulled from a lot of places, to be honest. And it's interesting because we're not in a JRPG setting, but a lot of my influences are JRPG. And I think maybe that kind of helps for this to sound it's got its own unique sound because of that as well. I pull heavily from JRPGs because that's my childhood, That's what I've been playing all my life.
Oh, it makes sense. I think there is a shared element between the roguelikes and JRPGs in that there is, like you mentioned earlier, that element of like pausing to think about the game, even though it's like a tense moment, and like overcoming that hurdle. So it makes a lot of sense. I have not myself played Chrono Trigger. I know people reference the music, so and Battle One, so great references. Maybe I'll put them in the links below. So if you were giving advice to other musicians, would you say is it finding references is the key, or like we were talking about getting the sound right away? Like what if someone was working on a soundtrack, what sorts of things would you tell them to look out for, to focus on?
Yeah, so if it's your first time working on a soundtrack, congratulations. That in itself is an achievement. I would say don't be afraid to reference tracks. There was a period of time, a period a while ago, where in the art world and in the music world as well, it was like taboo to reference something. If you hadn't drawn it from scratch from your head, then it was wrong. And the same went for music. If you hadn't used little ideas from other tracks that were already written, it was a bad thing. But the more I've done it, the more I've found I've discovered my own sound. My influences make up the music I want to write. I want to write like Nobuo Uematsu, Soken, Yasunori Mitsuda. I want to write like these people, so why not be listening to their music and trying to make my music nod to them at least? So yeah, I'd say don't be afraid to use references and get as much feedback as you can.
Would you say that
you're writing?
Well said. Do you think the software really matters? I know, what was the software you were using? I forget what it was called.
So I use Cubase, and I have a load of instruments from Native Instruments Complete 13. It's important to be happy with your instruments. Whether you've spent hundreds and thousands of pounds or dollars on the software, or whether you've got it all for free, Spitfire Labs is a really great free resource. If you've got it all for free or whatever, as long as you're happy with it, because you're not going to want to use stuff you don't like. Yeah. So go out there, try lots of different things, try loads of free things because they're free. You don't have to fork out money for that. But also, maybe demo some software, demo some VSTs, some virtual instruments. Ask your friends who have got some to say, let me hear this because I'm thinking of buying it maybe or trying it. Be happy with your sounds, and if you're not, find some new ones.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You're saying, like seek out sounds, try different sounds. You could find something you're really happy with. I guess same for your software too.
Yeah, yeah,
I would say the same for developing and programming. Like you got to get comfortable with your software and your libraries. You don't want to be fighting against your tools and the problem you're trying to solve.
absolutely.
That just makes it way harder. Um, okay. I guess another question here I really wanted to ask you is like looking to the future. I know we just started the second album. Is there anything in particular you're really excited working on? Don't feel free to. It's okay. Don't worry about spoilers. Just anything you really enjoyed about working on this soundscape or looking forward to in the future.
So I've just really enjoyed how so I saw the map for this game when it was a small map,
Yeah,
right?
it was so
And
small.
Morel's tower would sometimes just be spawning in the zone where you start, right? And now it's huge, and I love that because that, in my mind, that opens the box and just like blows the box away. And now musically, there's so much opportunity going on. It's fantastic. I'm really looking forward to writing some more boss battles, I'm going to be honest.
Okay.
I'm eager to... Because boss battles is something, initially I was like, how am I going to do with this? And then I wrote the Zenith, and I was so pumped about that. It sounded so good, I was happy with it. I can't wait to hear that the next boss battle is going to be. Give me, dude. You need to give me a Gremlin boss, please. We need some Gremlin boss like music going on.
Gremlin boss.
That's going to be good.
Oh, I will say, like to our players, the bosses are going to come near the end. So yeah, even Morald, he's a tough boss, but all the mechanics are not in place. So it'll probably be a little easier for you to fine tune that once we can see what the room looks like, what abilities they're using, if they have multiple phases. But yeah, so yeah, more bosses are coming. Gremlin boss would be funny. There was a Gremlin King. He's the guy with the crown.
So cool.
And then it ended up I needed more because there's so many Gremlin dungeons. I needed more kings. So now they call themselves chiefs, and it's like every castle has its own chief. It's really funny. So I don't know where the Gremlin King. Maybe there's like an actual Gremlin King, even though every Gremlin thinks he's the king. There's like in the mountains. We'll put like the actual
overlord.
like a big Gremlin. He could get the soundtrack. That'd be really fun. Okay, I guess I wanted to keep this around half an hour. I'd say, is there anything more you wanted to share or talk about the music? We got a bit more time here.
Yeah, I just want to touch on how this experience has been for me, in that, when I first set out on this soundtrack, I was nervous. I was worried that I was, like I was going to get fired because my sound ended up not being the right sound. All those thoughts ran through my head, of how, or maybe I'm no good at this. Maybe I just need to quit, And I found the more I just stopped questioning and just wrote music, and got the feedback, this became more my thing, and just sort of speaking to creatives out there. You're gonna have time when you feel like dropping out because you're like, I'm not cut out for this. What am I doing here, sort of thing, or I'm gonna make a fool of myself. But the best thing you can do is just keep making stuff and keep getting that feedback, because your feedback of yourself is important, but it's not a true picture of what you're putting out. Like, if I'd not been asking Jake, is this sounding all right? Or if he'd not been honest with me about the feedback, he could have just been like, it's okay. And then it ended up being rubbish. If you get people around you that you trust, get some feedback, keep making stuff. Yeah.
Fogheart, that's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. To hear that. I think that's true for all creatives. You kind of just have to keep going. There's always that moment of doubt you have to overcome. And it's even partly what we're reenacting when we play video games is the challenges we're facing are like representation for challenges in real life. Like that's what life is about, is like overcoming that hurdle where you're not sure what's going to happen. I just listen to you. I can relate as programming the game. I can relate so hard to those moments of uncertainty and putting up a game on Steam and not even know what I'm doing. That's so beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Fogheart.
And you can't tell.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. Thanks for this opportunity, man. It's been amazing so far. I cannot wait to see where we go.
Yeah, I'm really excited. We got a whole other album to finish working on. We've got basically another half of the game to finish. So
Yeah.
lots ahead. Thank you for doing this interview. Thank you so much. This has been great.
Thank you very much.
And those watching, thank you very much.